Hi everyone, Sarah Pacaro. Today's video is going to be really important. This video today, we're going to go through 5 different ways to recognize the effects of emotional neglect as an adult. So emotional neglect can happen as an adult, specifically if you're in very toxic, manipulative, narcissistic relationships, but it often isn't just that. Your attraction to, your staying in relationships that are so filled and riddled with red flags begins earlier on. It begins often in childhood, these neglectful experiences. And as a child, you don't recognize these experiences as neglect. They're just normal experiences, but these childhood experiences lead to very similar experiences in adulthood. So we're going to go through the 5 ways as an adult to recognize the effects of emotional neglect now as an adult. So this may pertain to and make sense to your life and your situations and relationships now. And if you continue to look back, you're probably going to see the very same familiar, similar patterns all throughout your relationships. So I'm a parent. And I'm not claiming to be perfect by any means. And we all came from parents, right? Whether the parents were married, together, divorced, separated, or everything in between. And being a parent is not an easy job. If you have children, you know that. So we truly are. Even narcissistic people, even emotionally abusive people are doing the best they can with what they have. Narcissists have shame, pain, guilt, blame, resentment, rejection, anger within them. And there's not much you can do with that that's good. So if they're truly doing the best they can with what they have very painful things. So how do you do the best with painful things? I don't know, right? So if you are a parent, it's not an easy job. You're raising a little person, a little human that looks up to you, and children look up to their parents more than anyone else in the world, more than teachers, more than coaches, more than friends. They look up to their parents and they look up to them and they absorb everything. They absorb everything like a sponge. They absorb verbal phrases, verbal comments. They absorb nonverbal cues. Children are so absorptive, is that a word? They're so in tune, they're so aligned with and so connected with their parents, and all they want inherently is that parents love and approval, and they want it unconditionally, but they receive it conditionally just because of this human experience. So as a parent, when you think back to when you were a child, you were trying to just make sense of the world around you, and so many things didn't make sense. There were so many things that your parents understood that you didn't understand. And you're going through this process of life with your parents asking, why is this? Why is that? Because children are just trying to make sense and trying to understand things. And parents are doing the best they can with what they have, but usually they have stress, adult worries, exhaustion, fatigue, you name it, their own relationship problems, their own problems with work, so many things that children don't understand. And that child, every child, me, you, your children, are just trying to make sense of this world that surrounds us and that we live in and that we're a part of, right? We want to please our parents. We want them to be happy with us and we want to be happy with them. And it's a huge responsibility. As a parent, especially a parent who's emotionally checked out, emotionally neglectful, self-absorbed, they're not tuned into their children's needs. So therefore they can't help them make sense of their own feelings because they don't know how to make sense of their own feelings. So it's like a baton of neglect that just gets passed on to the child. So understanding that every child just tries to make sense of their world, just wants love and acceptance, but often experiences a multitude of feelings of rejection, that they don't matter, abandonment, that no one's really checked in, tuned into them. There are so many critical components in childhood that often go missing, that often get moved around, walked around, skipped over, jumped over, that impact us and our adult relationships. So really trying to make sense of this emotional neglect, it's more of an invisible wound because it's not what happened to you as much as what didn't happen to you. All those times when your needs were not attended, and the ways that we dismiss and neglect our own emotional needs as adults. So Understanding yourself as an adult who experiences the impact of emotional neglect is not always easy because it can just seem normal. It can seem like the way it's always been. It can seem it is what it is. It's always been that way. Everyone in my family is that way. At least it's better than it used to be. At least my parents were better to me than their parents were to them. So your mind can come up with all these validations and all these reasons and all these excuses to really make sense of anything because that's the way our minds work. They're just constantly on the hunt to try and make sense of things. But they're trying to make sense of it logically when what's happening internally and unconsciously, there's a different processing going on with the beliefs, right? But we only have our emotions and our feelings to go off of and what other people say when we share our experiences and the validation that we get or the validation that we lack. We're trying to put all those pieces together. And when you grow up as a child who's emotionally neglected, you're emotionally shut down. Your feelings that you have are either told that they're too big or too small or not enough or don't have time for them and not right now. So you grow up feeling that your feelings are invalidated and you're coping with that. You're trying to figure out what to do with this giant emotion and feeling that you have that's going invalidated. Check in with mom. No, she doesn't have time for me. Check in with dad. No, he's not there. My brother, he could care less about me. He hates me. So all of these things, you're trying to make sense of it, put it all together, and everywhere you turn and go, those feelings and emotions and thoughts are just invalidated. So you learn unconsciously to shut them up, to shut them inside of you, to lock them away because no one else has time for them. So why should you make time for them? So you're not taught and modeled to go through the process of what that means and having anyone help you make sense of it. So a coping mechanism and a protective mechanism becomes just shut it away, lock it up. Don't deal with that right now. We got to move on. Don't have time for that. We got to go. So a child who experiences emotional neglect learns because we're always learning. We're always making sense of things. So, okay, it makes sense. Just lock it away. I'll deal with it later. But later never comes. Right. And so you learn not to express how you feel. You learn that people don't have time for your emotions. You're not taught or modeled how to really properly process that emotion and what it means, and that it really doesn't identify you. It's just something that you went through. But you begin to form this unconscious belief that it is who you are, and who you are is shut away and locked up, and who you are is wrong for having those thoughts and those feelings and those emotions in the first place. So this identity, this core identity becomes formed that you're wrong. You're wrong for having those in the first place. When you grow up holding on to that unconscious belief that's formed, it impacts all of your relationships. It impacts every decision that you make in your life. So you may notice that your life now as an adult is way off track and you're wondering, how did I even get here? I know I took a turn way back there a long time ago, but I don't know where I got off path and I have no idea where I am now and I don't know how to get back on track because you feel extremely closed off, you feel extremely distant from yourself and from others, which makes you feel even more isolated, even more alone, even more helpless and hopeless. So you're just now completely, it's like you're lost in the desert, just sitting with all of these emotions, all because of those core beliefs that you have about yourself that are all based around this neglect. So we're going to talk about the feelings of emptiness. That's the number one feeling that clients come to me with, this feeling of emptiness. They describe it as a void or a black hole or an inner darkness. And that hole is filled with sadness. It's filled with depression. It has them do things that they hate themselves later for doing. It's this inner feeling of darkness and emptiness, this inner void. So if you sense that something is missing within you, something that other people seem to have, and this feeling and this experience, this perception that you're on the outside looking in, and that makes you feel disconnected, that makes you feel different from everyone else, there's that deep void that you just so desperately deserve and desire to have filled with positive things, to have filled with things that make you feel connected and feel safe to connect, and things that allow you to trust trust yourself and trust others and get close to them and really be with them, but you don't feel like you can be with them because of this gaping hole and emptiness and darkness inside of you. So when you feel that way, that you're on the outside looking in, you've got that deep, dark hole within you, that void, it feels really, really hard to connect with people. You don't know how because your perception is they don't have that same void. And here I am trying to build a healthy connection and relationship. How can I with this though? Because that is preventing me from truly closing that gap and connecting with them. And you know that connection is the answer. We're hardwired for it. That's what you wanted with your parents when you were just a little child, a true, genuine, supportive and loving, safe connection. And when you experience emotional neglect, you experience a void of that very connection and a lack of it. And that void and lack didn't go anywhere. It just grew deeper and wider, and it's still there within you, impacting everything you do. So you still feel this way. It's really hard to connect with anybody because you can't even connect with yourself or feel safe connecting with yourself. Because there's an experience of connecting with yourself means connecting with the pain, with the void, with the emptiness, with the darkness. And nobody wants to connect with emptiness, pain, shame, and darkness. So you just go do other things. You distract, you numb out, you avoid, and you just continue to feel more lost and more alone through this process. So you feel like you're incapable to give what you lack. And all relationships, for the most part, are built around expressing your feelings. What do you think about this? What do you feel about that? I mean, that's the basis of connection, is feeling safe to express your feelings. Trust that they're going to be reciprocated and respected. And if they're not, then you just are surrounded with an abundance of toxic relationships. So healthy relationships, I mean, all of them, right? Even toxic relationships are built around expressing your feelings, but those lead to arguments about your feeling is wrong and yours is invalidated. But all relationships are built around expressing your feelings. So you watch a show, for example. What do you think about that person on the show? Oh my gosh, can you believe that this is happening in the world right now? Oh my gosh, I just read this. What do you think? That's the foundation of relationships. And if you're grounded in how you feel, then you're capable to communicate those feelings to your partner. And that's why I talk about projection all the time, because if you feel that emptiness inside and you're grounded in feeling a lack and a void and sadness and darkness, you're communicating that to your partner. And majority of communication is unconscious and nonverbal, so they're picking up on that. And that causes a lot of tension, chaos, and friction in relationships. And that generally causes you to connect with others who experience the same. Otherwise, there's a disconnection. So you're feeling disconnection within yourself and emptiness and loneliness. That's the foundation of all your relationships, and you're communicating those to your partner. So because people are programmed, like internally, unconsciously programmed, hardwired to crave and long for, to deserve and desire a connection with other people, with other human beings. We are beings. We're not just like little robots. That's what makes us different, is that we're programmed and hardwired to have that connection and to express the emotions, the thoughts, the feelings that we have. And we desire to be a part of the community, to be a part of something greater, something bigger than ourselves. But it's extremely difficult, and it feels almost impossible to be a part of something bigger, greater, better, stronger, when your emotions and your internal thoughts and beliefs say that you're not enough, say that you're not deserving of that, say that that's unsafe to be a part of that. So you remove yourself and you prevent yourself from being a part of that, because it could cause more pain. It could cause more darkness, loneliness, sadness. Or you feel that if you are going to express yourself, then you would be shamed, you would be judged, you would be abandoned, you would be shunned. So you begin to express what you think others want to hear from you or see from you. So you begin to become what I call the F me. We go through healing from all of these archetypes: the gaslighter me, the F me, the superhero me, the ultra independent one that's outside looking in, that says, I don't need anybody else because they don't feel safe to trust. We go through all of that in my Transforming Past Pain to Present Power program. So when you feel that if I truly do express myself, people won't like me. And we're going to get into that in just a moment, that fatal flaw. You feel that people will abandon you, they'll leave you, they'll just leave your life, and they're just going to sit there and criticize and judge you. So a person who feels empty inside, who feels that deep, dark void inside, they will go to great lengths to fill that void. Again, we go through all of these archetypes in my past pain to present power program. So they'll go to great lengths to fill that void. Oftentimes people fill it with any relationship. They'll settle in a relationship. They'll fill it with a horrible, toxic, narcissistic relationship just so they don't have to be alone. Or they'll fill that inner void with food. They'll fill it with alcohol. They'll fill it with substances. A person who feels empty inside will go to great lengths and any lengths to try and fill that void so that they don't feel it. They'll try and fill it so they don't feel it. And that could mean overindulging in lots of things. That could mean, things like changing jobs or cars or places, relationships. I mean, it's not always something that's bad for you, but it's an avoidance. It's a flight mechanism, which is a trauma response. So you fear truly being seen and getting known in a relationship. You will look for ways to sabotage that. So if you find that you're in the cycle of toxic relationships and you just don't understand it because all you want is a healthy relationship, there are deeply rooted inner unconscious beliefs that are holding you back from that emptiness inside, that it's not safe to do that. It's not safe to get that close to people. So you inevitably and unconsciously look for, not consciously, because who would do that, but you find that you are sabotaging relationships. Because if you can control the ending, if you can start an argument and make them mad at you, you can be the one to leave them and walk away and feel less pain. And it sounds crazy, but if this is what you experience, you know what I'm talking about. And I've experienced it too. Now I work with people to truly heal from those inner unconscious beliefs, to transform all of that and reframe and shift the signs and symptoms and experiences of emptiness inside of you. So signs that you feel the emptiness is you physically feel empty inside. You'll notice that you'll mindlessly eat unhealthy things because you're trying to feel full. You physically feel empty inside. You are emotionally numb and you constantly question your purpose in life. What's the point of all this? Why am I here? This can't be it. That's a sign of emptiness. You're a thrill seeker, you're an adrenaline junkie, and you love jumping from relationship to relationship. You love doing dangerous or harmful things to get that adrenaline rush and to get that endorphin kick and get that high that you feel inside to counterbalance the feeling of emptiness that you feel inside. And you often feel like you're an outsider looking in, like you are in the stands and you're watching the game as as a fan instead of being as a spectator, instead of being on the court of your own life. So you feel like maybe you're looking through the looking glass and there's my life happening to me. I can see all the missing pieces. I can see the people, the places, I can see what they're doing. You don't feel like you're in there. It feels like you're out in there, like you're not really a part of your life. So the fatal flaw is this thought, is this unconscious belief, this core and deeply rooted belief that if people knew you, the real you, warts and all, they wouldn't like you. So that's called the fatal flaw. If people knew the real you, they wouldn't like you. So you fear that if you open yourself up to others, they will reject you, they will leave you, they will abandon you. And this has a connection to past traumatic, neglectful, and abusive experiences. When your emotional needs are not met, are not given a safe space to be processed, they're not met with acceptance, they're not met with grace, they're not met with openness and love and understanding, that reinforces your unconscious belief that the feelings you have, the thoughts you have are undesirable and irritation and annoyance and a burden. So you shut this off and you're left to try and process this and make sense of all of it on your own. You don't have anybody there with you teaching you how to cope or how to understand and interpret that pain and those feelings. So you do probably what your parents told you to do or what you believed you had to do. Shut up, suck it up, move on, get over it, let it go. But it really doesn't move on. It really doesn't just let go. It doesn't go anywhere. It stays there and it grows and it gets bigger. It's like that shovel that's just digging an even deeper and wider hole inside of you. So no wonder when your inner mind has an unconscious belief like that, you feel lack. You feel an inability to connect to yourself or to another person because it's another person who inevitably caused that pain. And if you do this, you build up this wall. Most clients I work with say it's like I have this wall or like this block and I just can't get around it, over it, under it, through it. It's there. It's like blocking me. And it's this inner protective guard that you've learned to build up. And with that there's no room for true connection. It keeps people out. That inner boundary and wall that you've created keeps what you deserve and desire out. It keeps the love and connection out, and it keeps that pain in. And you may feel this and know this and want to break down that wall, want to get rid of it and remove it, but you don't know how because it was built at a time when you didn't have any other defenses. So it's in there, it's programmed unconsciously and internally. And now maybe you're doing conscious exercises or whatever it is that you're doing to heal that maybe chip away at that wall, but you can feel that it's still there and you want it gone, you want it removed so you can have those beautiful connections and relationships. So a result of this behavior and these past experiences are that if you reveal the real you, if you show your real true self to others, they will not approve of you. They will reject you, abandon you, and leave you, and you'll be left alone. So you begin to wear a mask, which is what I call the F me, and you put that mask on and you wear it wherever you go. And sometimes it changes depending on who you're with or the situation that you're in. But you do that so that others will accept you, like you, love you, approve of you, because that's all you really want. But they're not connecting with the real you. They're connecting with the projected you, the you that you're projecting to feel that acceptance, belonging, love, connection. So it's really fake attention that you're getting. So you're still left with that inner void of feeling that they don't know the real you. So there are some signs of the fatal flaw. The first one is one that we just talked about, that if people get too close to you, the real you, if they get over that wall, behind it, around it, they won't like what they see and they will leave. Another sign is that you avoid initiating friendships, you avoid intimate relationships. I mean, you may be doing other things, right? But they're not intimate because intimacy is into me see. You're not letting them see into you. And because of this, it feels like all of your friendships and connections and relationships are really surface level, they're really shallow. You find it difficult to keep conversations going, especially if they begin to get too deep. You're like, oh, no, right? Let's go do something else. And you find a diversion and a distraction. And you tend to expect rejection around every corner. You've got one foot in, one foot out. You're waiting for the shoe to drop, right? Because your expectation is rejection. You're waiting for them to leave you, reject you, and you're kind of waiting to feel that alone feeling. And then when it happens, see, I knew it, right? Why does this always happen to me? And it's not safe to be in relationships. And you fear getting too close to people and find that it's really, really difficult, almost impossible to open up, even with people that you're close to. You can do a lot of things together and do a lot of things with certain people, but you don't really feel like they truly know you because you fear getting too close to them and what that could potentially mean or leave you feeling. So you have a very skewed, distorted, and poor understanding of yourself because you're coming from that place of pain. If you experienced emotional neglect, it's highly likely that you struggle with your identity, with your sense of identity, with the truth about who you are. You have this internal processing of rejecting that because you don't want to accept that who you are is fatally flawed. So it's hard for you to realize or recognize or identify what you want in life or who you are and your part in all of that. And you find it really difficult to make decisions. I talk about this as the gaslighter archetype. We go through healing all of it. in my program, the gaslighter you really, really struggles with identifying what they want and making decisions with clarity and with confidence. So even making small decisions can be really hard for you. I mean, don't mind the big ones. Are you kidding me? Like those take years, or I just avoid making them at all. I can't commit to that, right? Because of the uncertainty of your past choices and the way that it's still impacting you today, you have a really poor understanding of yourself. And that could be due to the lack of attention and connection that you received from your initial caregivers, from your upbringing. And growing up, you formed and you developed what you made sense of was an incomplete view of yourself. It feels like you don't know who you are. You question who you are. So you've got this like little bits and pieces, but you feel like there's something missing or there's a lot missing. You don't know who you are at all, or question if you ever did know who you were. So it just feels completely jaded and you don't like it. I get it, but it does not take a lifetime to heal from this kind of trauma and abuse. And another feeling that you'll have is that you lack direction. You have no direction, and you don't have the tools to navigate in this world that we live in. I mean, there's so many things coming at you. How do you know where to go or what to do? So you feel that you don't have the tools, you lack the tools, or you do have the tools, but you don't know how to use them, but you don't know what direction to go to use the tools. You lack direction completely in life, and you just, I don't know. And in that space, in that depth, you settle into that misery and you hate it, but it's become the norm in your life. And that's why you go outside of yourself and ask other people, well, what do you think I should do? And they tell you what they think, right? Everyone's got an opinion. And you maybe take it and it doesn't work, or you reject it because you're like, no, that's actually not it at all. But you don't know who you are. You don't know what you like and what you dislike because you have no direction in life and your tools are broken, right? So you have no idea, but you truly desire to dig deep and reveal and show who you are so that you can know who you are. That's exactly what we do in the past pain to present power program. We go through healing from all those archetypes so that you can identify a healthy sense of self and get rid of the signs of a poor, broken self or lack of self. But signs of a poor self are you find it hard to identify your talents, your strengths, your achievements, your accomplishments. You tend to just dismiss those and say, whatever, that really didn't matter, even though you've accomplished and achieved what other people could have only dreamed of. I call that the superhero me. You tend to overemphasize your weaknesses and flaws and completely disregard your strengths. Another sign of poor self is you give up very quickly when things get challenging. This is part of the P me archetype. When things get hard or challenging, you just give up, right? You procrastinate, you stop seeing it through, you stop moving forward. You're very, very quick to give up and give up extremely easily. So you're not sure what your interests are. You just, whatever. I don't care. And you just kind of feel like you're just simply existing and not truly living. And you find it hard to say what you like or dislike. If someone asks you, you go, I don't know, whatever. I mean, I don't really care. So people who've experienced emotional neglect have a really difficult time. They struggle with self-discipline, with self-control, right? And there's a link between emotional neglect and problems with self-control or self-discipline. People with emotional neglect, they tend to be very impulsive. I'm laughing because that used to be me as well. Not perfect by any means, but it's become a lot easier to take a step back, be with, identify with what's really going on. When there's a link and a direct correlation and connection between emotional neglect, you have a lot of problems with self-discipline. You're very impulsive. You're very, oh, let's go do this. Because as a young child, if you were left to deal with and process issues on your own, then chances are you had to make quick decisions. You had to decide because no one was there to support you and help you through that process. So you had to prioritize and put first yourself and making a decision, and did that and indulged in the things that you wanted to do, the things that made you feel good when you felt bad. So now you've got a lack of resourcefulness, a lack of direction, because it's now just coming from this impulsive inner place of, I want to go do this because that's going to make me feel better than this feels right now. So let's go and let's get out of here. Let's go do that. So your time, attention, your energy, your focus is on catering to your own needs, desires, wants, behaviors. So maybe other people have told you that you're selfish or you're really difficult to connect with, and you're just kind of aloof to everything right now. And you're thinking, huh, what do you mean? Like it's just not registering, it's not connecting. So emotionally neglected adults who were emotionally neglected children sometimes categorize or put themselves in the concept of being lazy when they're like, I don't know, I don't care, whatever. And they just feel like they're being lazy. Well, it's not actual pure, true laziness. It's emotional neglect. So maybe there's deadlines or, priorities and things that you have to do. And you just, sorry, I didn't get to it. And you procrastinate until the last moment. Maybe you do get it done, but you wait until that last moment, that last second. That's what I call the P me, the perfectionist and the procrastinator. And this is due to emotional neglect. You're not truly lazy. It's just a disconnect because of the emotional neglect. So in a childhood, in an upbringing, when you didn't develop habits of prioritizing tasks and taking responsibility and being accountable for your actions where there were no consequences because no one checked in, no one really cared, that carried into your adulthood as a lack of discipline and now is probably being labeled as lazy when it's truly just emotional neglect. So if you experience poor self-discipline, you maybe feel or are told by others that you're lazy or call yourself lazy. Again, maybe you're that stuffer bottler me archetype. You drink too much, you sleep too much, you spend too much, you eat too much, you too much everything, and you avoid mediocre, mundane, boring things. So there's a lot of things that you avoid and don't do. And all of this more than likely makes you really frustrated and angry with yourself. You get really mad at yourself for how little you get done because you've got other people also pointing out that same truth. You barely get anything done. You don't take responsibility. You're lazy. So again, all signs of emotional neglect. When you're processing this and thinking, okay, this is me, but I don't want this to be me anymore. I truly want to understand my emotions, but maybe you just feel like numb completely to them. This is all due again to emotional neglect. There were emotions when you were younger that were not acknowledged, they were not expressed. So they tended to bottle up until they surface in one form or another. And when they do come out, when they are expressed, I mean, they're expressed with a ton of pressure behind them. So you blow up and you go off on people, usually the people that you're closest to, right? The other people in the room. And you hurt them, you harm them with your words, and you don't mean to, but it's just what happens because you didn't understand the emotion. You locked it away, you put it aside, and it didn't leave or go anywhere. It's still there, and you kept shoving and shoving and shoving and shoving. And finally, it's like the box went and just exploded out. And you didn't mean for it to, but it did and it does when you have a really difficult time understanding this. And emotions are an expression of the unconscious beliefs that we have about ourselves. So when you're a child, even when you're an adult, and you don't understand how to interpret your feelings, they're unconsciously labeled as bad, uncalled for, unjustified. They're put in those boxes, and those boxes get shoved and stuffed until they explode out. And you feel better, right? Because you got it out. But the other people around you, the other people there, they're now hurt by all of that just got exploded onto them. So if you're an adult now and you find that you tend to close yourself off from people or from expressing yourself because it just doesn't feel good to, or you don't know how to, or you think the other person's not going to get me, or they're going to reject me, they're not going to like me or accept me, it just keeps that relationships and all of the relationships very surface level. Maybe you're doing a lot of things together, but there's not a lot of depth in the things that you do together. So it's no wonder a child who grew up experiencing emotional neglect is now an adult who still experiences emotional neglect and feels unable and incapable to receive or give love because you can only give what you have to give. So if it's not there, you don't have it to give. You may be giving and calling it love, kindness, and compassion, but what it truly is anger and resentment because it's not reciprocated. It doesn't feel safe to receive love either. There's a lot of pain in receiving love because you didn't receive it when you were younger and emotionally neglected. So again, you wear that mask, you try and hide behind it, you become the F me, which I call the fake me or the fraud me. So you maybe, get yourself done and look like you've got it all together, but you're hiding parts of yourself. You're hiding parts of those selves that you don't believe or feel that others will accept and that you internally reject because you feel like if you showed that parts of you to them, they would also reject them. So it only deepens that belief that it feels like you're an outsider looking in, watching all of this take place in your life. Does that all make sense? So there are signs that you have difficulty expressing emotions, and you probably already know that because you're probably thinking, yeah, maybe you get really uncomfortable in relationships when someone tries to go deep with you or really connect with you, and they really open up to you, and they feel like they need you, and you think, "Ooh, what do you mean you need me? Ugh, no," and you push them away. And generally, this is an unconscious process, and maybe you realize that you do that, and you don't like that you do that. You don't know why you do it. You don't really like that feeling of someone else needing you. And this can show up when you become a parent. You have this child who's dependent on you and who needs you, and you feel that you're not able to really deeply connect with your own child. You don't like that feeling that someone needs you. It's overwhelming. It's too much. It's too big of an emotion. And so maybe you're really uncomfortable crying because crying is a form of expressing, crying is a form of releasing, and you find that you don't cry or you feel like you're incapable of crying, especially if someone else is around in the presence of another person, or another person isn't crying in front of you and you're going, oh gosh, I don't know what to do. What are you supposed to do with this? And you get really uncomfortable when someone else cries in your presence. Maybe people are there and they tell you that you come across as really different, that they find it really difficult to connect with you. They would love to, they just don't feel that they can because it just seems like you're always so distant. How are you guys doing with all this information? It's a lot, especially when you've gone through a neglectful past and you've been told all these things and you already feel these things about yourself, that you're distant, that there's a hole and a void in you, and you're afraid that people are going to abandon you, and you just feel so isolated and alone in this world. So, as hard as all of this may be to hear, you've already felt it. It's more than likely what led you to this video, and you're watching videos like this because you want to get out of all of those feelings. Well, to get out of those feelings and out of those thoughts and out of that space where you're over here as an observer in your life, it takes truly transforming the inner beliefs, the deeply rooted core unconscious beliefs, those beliefs that have formed your identity and lead to the thoughts and the feelings and the actions and the habits and the behaviors that you have. All of those stem from this core and rooted belief. So when you want to feel safe to connect with people, you want to feel safe to trust yourself and know who you are instead of hide who you are and not hide behind that mask of shame anymore, and feel comfortable with not just the good feelings, but all of your feelings, and know that they are all there to guide you, support you, and direct you in life. So you no longer feel that you lack direction or connection in your life. I would love to see you inside of the program I've been talking about, Transforming Past Pain to Present Power. Or if you're looking for an even faster, more rapid way to transform from all of this, I would love to talk to you about transformational healing and see if we are a good fit and in alignment to work together one-to-one. All right, guys, that is it for today and this video. Thank you for watching and tuning in. Best to you wherever you're at along your journey, and I look forward to using the links in the description below to connect. Bye for now.